Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. The NFL Week 10 is officially here, and with that comes another edition of Sunday Night Football. Got a really fun matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans, and I have some picks to go ahead and share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week comes a new opportunity to go ahead and make some money. Like I said, guys, got a really fun matchup this week between the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans. This matchup just has the feeling of a heavyweight battle. These are two of the top hitters in their conferences. The Lions, obviously, the best team in the NFC right now. In the AFC, Houston, they may not be the best, but they are certainly one of the best. Injuries have certainly derailed the Texans a little bit, but they're still sitting solid at 6-3. Guys, these are the Sunday Night Football matchups that we live for as football fans. Yes, I know the injuries of the Texans definitely hamper the game a little bit, but I still think it's a really solid matchup, even with Nico Collins probably being out again, and of course, Stephon Diggs definitely being out for Houston. As for which side I'm taking here, guys, I gotta be honest, I'm definitely leaning on the side of the Houston Texans in this one. Now, look, I know that might surprise some people. Obviously, we know Detroit, they are on a crazy run right now. They're not just beating teams, they're demolishing teams. In their most recent victory, they demolished the Green Bay Packers, a division rival where those games are usually pretty tight, pretty exciting. The Lions absolutely decimated them. It was a crazy good win for the Lions. They've done that a lot this year. They've blown out teams that normally blow other teams out. They're on a really good run, and on the flip side, on the Houston side of things, they're obviously coming off a really embarrassing Thursday Night Football loss against the Jets team that had lost, I think it was 5 or 6 straight going into that matchup. Despite all of that, I'm still backing with the home team, Houston, here. We'll go ahead and jump into the outlier stream, so I'm go ahead and give you guys a couple of information, some data points, some key reasons as to why I like the Texans in this matchup. The official line we're taking here, guys, is the Texans plus 4.5. At the time of recording, the line is currently set at plus 4. I always like to buy an extra half point or point. I've just been burned a lot of times as a gambler. I've been doing this a long time. I'd rather buy the extra half point or extra point and play it safe. So we're getting Texans here plus 4.5, minus 122 odds over on DraftKings. And look, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of data points that point to Houston in this matchup. For starters, we have the fact that the Houston Texans are covering this line of plus 4.5 in 78% of their games so far this year. Only 2 times this year have they failed to cash this line of plus 4.5. Last week against the New York Jets, they lost 21-13, and you got to go all the way back to week 3 against the Minnesota Vikings where they got thrashed in that one 34-7. Besides those 2 games, though, every other game this year, the Houston Texans have kept their games within 5 points. Pretty tough games, pretty close games. And yeah, to be fair, I don't think any of the teams they played so far match up to the level that Detroit necessarily is, but it's not like the Texans haven't had any tough teams on their schedule. I mean, they've had the Bills, they've had the Vikings, obviously the Vikings thrashed them, but they've had, the Packers, they've had the Bills. Not the toughest schedule in the NFL, but they've had some good games in there where they've kept it relatively close. The Houston Texans are right now 19th in the NFL in terms of strength of schedule, which is only a couple spots lower than where the Lions are right now in their strength of schedule. So yeah, the overall spread, they're just 33% against the spread overall this year, but at this specific line of plus 4.5, they are at a 78% hit rate, so pretty good for us there. A couple other key data points here. The insights provided by Outlier. The Houston Texans are 8-4, a 66.7% hit rate against the spread in their last 12 games as an underdog. So in their last 12 games as an underdog, they've fared particularly well. The other key thing to note here, guys, is that when the Houston Texans play at home, they are a much better team than when they're on the road. If we just go ahead and take a look at the home games so far this year for Houston, again, at this plus 4.5 line where we're getting them in this game's matchup against Detroit, they've cashed this line of plus 4.5 in all 4 home games so far this season. Even if you want to go ahead and stretch that data out to the last 10 home games dating back to last season, the Texans have cashed this line of plus 4.5 at home in 9 of their last 10 home games. The only time was back on Christmas Eve of last year against the Browns. They did get blown out pretty badly in that one. But overall, including this year, including playoffs, including last year, their last 10 home games, 9 of their last 10 home games have cashed this line of plus 4.5. This has been a really better team at home than they have been on the road. To be fair, they're not a terrible road team either, but you see a 60% hit rate in their last 10 road games, again, versus the 100% hit rate or 90% hit rate, in their last 10 home games. So they are a slightly better team at home than they have been on the road, but pretty good data there. And then just from an overall matchup standpoint here, the Texans are a pretty solid defensive team. Yes, Detroit, obviously we know their offense has been unbelievable this year. First overall in scoring, 6th in rushing yards, 15th in passing yards. A lot of great data, a lot of great metric points for the Lions offense. But on the flip side, the Texans defense is pretty solid. They are 14th in scoring, 22.2 points per game. Not great, but a solid number. They're the third best pass defense in the NFL. They're only giving up 167.4 passing yards per game to opposing teams. And on the ground, yeah, they're not as good as they are in the past, but they're still a pretty solid run defense. 12th in the NFL right now, give up 114.2 rushing yards per game. And you can keep going through the list here. They're pretty good numbers. They're 4th in yards per play, 5th in sacks. They're top 10 in QB hits, top 10 in QB hurries, 3rd in tackles for loss. This Texans pass rush is legit, and this Texans defense in general is legit. A pretty good matchup here against the Lions offense that is really, really good, no doubt. I think you take that Texans defense and combine that with the fact that C.J. Stroud going up against the Lions pass defense as right now is 29th in the NFL. I think Houston, again, I'm not saying the Texans will go ahead and win this game necessarily, but I think Houston, with the defense they have and their offense, yes, I know Stephon Diggs is out and Nico Collins probably out again in this one. I just think that overall the Texans are too good of a team to lose this game by more than 5 points. The Lions' 29th ranked pass defense, C.J. Stroud should be able to go ahead and have some success throwing the football on this Lions defense. And look, the Texans' weakness this year has been their offensive line play has not been great, but the Lions' pass rush has not been great so far this year. I know they just got Zadarius Smith, but it's his first game in. This Lions pass rush without Aiden Hutchinson has not been as good. I don't think they're going to be able to take advantage of the matchup necessarily against this Texans offensive line. I think Stroud should have a decent amount of time in the pocket to get some things done. I like the Texans a lot in this spot, plus 4.5. And look at the total in this game, guys. Now, again, the line is set at 48.5, the over-under for this game. We're buying a 1.5 here. We're getting the under at 50, which is minus 125 BetMGM, minus 125 Bet365, and minus 129 on DraftKings. We're buying an extra point or so to give us a better chance to go ahead and cash this under. Now, again, on the Houston side of things, the data looks really solid. Looking at this line of 50, the over-under at 50, we have an 80% cash rate on the under so far in their last 10 games for Houston. And if we go ahead and narrow that down to their 2024 season so far, a 78% hit rate on this under. Now, on Detroit's side, you would think with the offense they have, this line, the over will be cashing at a really high rate. It's actually split even, 50-50 so far this year at this line of 50. And I mean, just taking a look at some of those games where the total went over 50 in these Lions games. I mean, Seattle, we know their defense has been very suspect this year. The Cowboys, their defense, very suspect. Now, the Titans' defense has not been suspect, but this is not a very good Titans team, so it makes sense as to why they got blown out in that matchup. In the Minnesota game, which was a really tight one, honestly, it was the Lions' defense late in that game that allowed that total to go over. They were dominating that game, crushing the Vikings, and then late in the second half, they allowed Minnesota to go ahead and battle back in that one. Although I do think Houston should be good enough offensively in this game to at least score enough to keep the game relatively close, I still don't trust the Texans offense completely in this matchup no matter what. Without Nico Collins, without Stephon Diggs, it definitely limits the offensive potential of this Houston team. But I do think Houston's defense should be good enough to at least slow the Lions down to keep their scoring at a minimum. These primetime unders are hitting a nearly 60% hit rate over the last 5 years, so betting the under in these primetime games is just a smart play in general. This line is pretty high at 50. Even at the 48.5 line, it's high, but at the 50 line, it's also pretty high. I don't think Detroit's going to be able to go ahead and score at will on this Texans defense. On the flip side, I don't think Houston's going to be able to score enough points to A, either win the game, or B, get this total to where it needs to be. All right, guys, so our first pick was Texans plus 4.5. Our second pick was the under on the total at 50. Our third pick in this game slate, we're targeting a player prop here. We're going Tank Dell of the Houston Texans over 64.5 receiving yards. Now, I am recording this, guys, a little early in the week. I'm going on vacation this weekend to Chicago. I'm going to see Pats Bears in Chicago, as well as Notre Dame versus Florida State in Indiana. So a little fun football trip weekend with the boys. So I am recording this a little early in the week. So officially right now, this Tank Dell line is not available on DraftKings or on FanDuel. It is available right now at Bet365, BetMGM. The reason why I'm throwing out there, guys, that this line will become available closer towards kickoff on Sunday. on DraftKings, on FanDuel. I would bet this honestly between 63.5, 62.5, and like up to like 68.5, right? I'm just giving you guys a range. In that range, I would go ahead and take this Tank Dell over. Again, unfortunately, right now, they don't have the line on one of the major sports books. Again, take it anywhere between 62.5 and 68.5. But we're going with his over in receiving yards. And look, if Nico Collins plays, obviously this would obviously affect this line, but it looks like at the time of recording, it doesn't look like Nico Collins is going to play this week. He's getting closer and closer. Probably next week he'll be back, but this week it's not looking great. And so if Nico Collins is out, the matchup is just too juicy to not go ahead and take any Tank Dell props in this one. The last time we saw him on that Thursday night game against the New York Jets, he had 126 receiving yards against that Jets defense. And it makes total sense. You don't have Stephon Diggs. You don't have Nico Collins. Tank Dell is not only the number one option in this offense, he's really the only option in this Texans passing game. And if he had 126 receiving yards against the Jets defense, imagine what he'll do against the 29th pass defense in the NFL. Again, Detroit, 250 passing yards per game allowed so far this year on defense. Look at the matchup again. We see the numbers there. Versus wide receivers, this is the worst defense in the NFL against wide receivers. Wide receivers are getting 209 receiving yards per game in total, not just one wide receiver, but in total, wide receivers are tallying 209 receiving yards per game against this Lions defense. It's really, really bad. And if that's the case, if Houston is to hit that average of 209, let's say, where those yards are going to come from, you got to assume a good chunk of them is going to come from Tank Dell. So we'll take his over here in receiving yards. Again, the line right now is at 64.5. I'm assuming it's going to stay somewhere in the vicinity of that 62.5 to 68.5 range. The reason why they're not going to put the line any higher is because he has only cashed the over once this season. Again, he had a really big game last week. I just think that with Nico Collins probably out again, and obviously we know Diggs is out, and this Lions defense, I think Dell is due for a big day. And closing out today's video, guys, and speaking, of course, of Tank Dell, we have our anytime touchdown product, which we do on every single Sunday Night Football video. We do a little giveaway contest as well with this pick. It's very simple, guys. All you have to do is go ahead and comment the last name of this player, and if he scored a touchdown, if he cashes this prop, one lucky commenter will be selected to win a free $20 Amazon gift card. It's that simple. It's that easy. We're going with Tank Dell here. Anytime touchdown scoring in there for plus 190 over on DraftKings. Really good value here. Again, I don't really have to go into too much detail here as to why I like this. I just kind of went on my Tank Dell spiel in the last pick. Again, Detroit, now they're better numbers versus wide receiver in terms of touchdowns allowed, 0.6 touchdowns allowed per game. Overall, they're actually top 5 in the league. But again, with the way that Houston should be able to throw the football on this Lions defense, I expect Tank Dell to go ahead and get a touchdown. He actually cashes over in 2 of his last 4 games. Again, overall this year, not great. But in the most recent games, now that Nico Collins has been out, now that obviously Stephon Diggs is out, you're going to see those numbers increase. And overall last year, we had a 55% hit rate for Tank Dell on this over. 6 of 11 games last year for the Texans, he cashed the over. As long as the Texans still have injuries to their wide receiver room and Tank Dell is still there, he's going to be the primary option. He's going to get a lot of looks here. I think a touchdown for him is really good. And for plus 190, really solid value here. So give me Tank Dell anytime touchdown, plus 190 odds. Again, guys, comment Dell down below. And if this prop hits, one lucky commenter will be selected with a free $20 Amazon gift card. So, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Guys, this video is coming out probably Saturday. If you guys are wondering, those who regularly watch the channel, where my NFL Oracle video is or where the college football, unfortunately, being on vacation, I was limited on time to get these videos done for the week. I'm literally pulling an all-nighter. I'm going right to the airport after I finish this video. Basically, I got like an hour till I leave. So, unfortunately, ran out of time, did not get a lot of these videos done. However, those picks for those videos, my weekly NFL slate, my weekly college football slate, they'll be posted on the YouTube channel as well as on my Instagram page at Tassos Picks. So make sure to go ahead and follow over there for plenty of plays and plenty of picks this weekend. I will be back next week with another Sunday Night Football picks video. But until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy this matchup. Should be a really fun one between the Lions and the Texans. Let's go Houston in this matchup, guys. We could use a really good winning week here. I hope you're all winners. We'll see you next week.